Welcome to Donuts with a Sprinkle of Social Media, the podcast for all small business owners.
I'm your host, Sean Moat, and with 15 years experience in digital marketing, I've got a passion for small businesses and social media. Each week, we'll speak to a business owner, find out about their business and their struggles with social media. So let's dive into this week's episode. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Donuts with a Sprinkle of Social Media. I've got the king of IT with us today, Warren of InfoZen. Hello, Warren. How are you today?
Oh, Sean, I'm fine. I'm good.
Yeah, so Warren, in my eyes, is the king of IT. He will keep you safe and secure with Zencore. Warren, why don't we start off by, instead of me waffling a load of rubbish, why don't you tell us more about you and your business?
So it's, the story of me is a long one. If you want to start back in 1969. No, I got started really early. I suppose early, relatively speaking, these days. I suppose in that I picked up a soldering iron for the first time when I was about 12 and fixed someone's 80s microcomputer. When they said, "Can you fix an 80s microcomputer?" And I said, "Yeah," and then worried about the consequences afterwards when I didn't know how to use a soldering iron. But I learned pretty quickly. And then I kind of dabbled with electronics and computers for about 4 years before going to college, where I just blagged a place onto the college course because I hated school from the moment I walked through the door at the age of 4. By the time I'd gotten to like sort of 12 or 13 or 14 or whatever it was, I just had enough. So I didn't really particularly do well at school because it just wasn't. I didn't find it very engaging. It wasn't really good for me. But college changed everything, and college time was just amazing. We had lecturers who actually knew what they were doing, and had been in industry and had loads of great stories. And people learn a lot from other people's stories, don't they? Storytelling is a great way to teach people, and so college and university changed everything in that respect. And I did really well there, so came out, but there were no jobs for computer engineers at the time when I came out of uni. So I started teaching people IT instead, and it just went from there, really. I transferred to the systems division of the same company and started doing some programming and started doing websites when websites were just brand new. It was a brand new thing back in the sort of early to mid-90s, and created some of the first websites in the Northeast for small companies selling their stuff. And they were just going on a wing and a prayer, really, because nobody had any stats. Nobody knew it was. Nobody had proven that it was actually going to work for selling stuff. And we did that. So
it's funny, isn't it? My story is probably similar to yours. I went to school, hated school, but then as soon as you go to college, it's a completely different ball game where people are actually interested in teaching you, rather than it being just a job, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. It was fantastic, and we just had some great teachers. One of the maths lecturers that I had, he decided that he was going to just scrap everything that we'd learned at school on maths. And he said, just my first day into the course, and he just said, "Look, I hate to tell you this, but everything you've been taught in the last 5 years about mathematics is just complete garbage. I just want you to forget about it and we'll start again and let's learn to count." And he taught us how to count, again from scratch, using 0 to 9 instead of 1 to 10.
Yeah, I better not let my kids listen to this episode, because they'll be telling me, "You tell me that I have to do my maths homework." But they're right.
I'm sure it's a lot better now.
Yeah, well, no, I don't think so.
That's any consolation.
When do you ever use trigonometry? I've never used it in my lifetime.
Well, that was part of the problem, wasn't it? They gave you all this pure maths to do and never told you how you'd apply it in real life.
Yeah. So your business is InfoZen, and you do IT for businesses. You've got a couple of projects. You can tell this is first thing in the morning. I put my bloody teeth back in. You've got a couple of products, Zencore Fusion and Prime. Do you want to explain what you do for businesses and what the difference between the couple of products that you've got on your website?
Yeah, Zencore Prime is for small businesses who are kind of startups or just starting to grow, and it's to give them a firm foundation in terms of their cybersecurity and their IT generally going forward as well. So it's always good to start with good foundations in a business, when you're starting up. So get your foundations right, and a lot of other stuff should fall into line. And build on solid foundations, you end up with a solid structure. So that's my belief anyway. And Zencore Prime is all about getting the basics right from the start, making sure that you've got the right sort of stuff in place, and that you're using that in the best way you possibly can, to make sure that you're creating a foundation that will provide efficiency and productivity from the start. And that's what Prime's basically all about, making you safe and secure and streamlined going forward.
Yeah. So it's a completely managed solution that you offer, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
Organizations, computers and systems.
That's right, yeah. I mean, it's based on the managed services provider model, which has been around for a while now, but it adds a few extra things in there as well. I wasn't really satisfied with the managed services provider model when I started looking at it 4 years ago. I found there was a couple of things that needed to be added to it to make it really sound, There was this notion of proactivity in the managed service provider model, and it's like one of the keystones of the managed service provider model. But what I found when I looked around was that a lot of the managed service providers were doing proactivity after everything else had been done, when really proactivity's got to be done proactively itself, in order for it to work. And the other thing as well was that they were providing IT support, and saying that they would reduce the costs of the IT support, which, if you think about it, is counterproductive, because if you're going to reduce the cost of the IT support, which is the keystone of your revenue stream, then you're doing yourself out of business. So I thought, actually, there's going to be a conflict of interest there, and that's not going to work. So we can make it work better. We can make it work better by removing the relevance of IT support on the main revenue stream, and actually leverage that proactivity that they were talking about to make it possible to drive down the cost of support to the minimum it could possibly be.
Yeah. And how does things like email phishing and all that lot, how do you help businesses? Because some of them look bloody real as anything. And you have to sometimes take a step back, don't you, to look at it and go, no, that's not quite right.
Yeah, that's right. But we don't rely on human beings to do all of the work. They're part of the solution because they're the weakest link in the chain. But in the chain of security, you can't rely on them. They don't spot things like characters being replaced by other characters in URLs and email addresses. So you can't really rely on them too much. The way that we do that is through a secure email system that examines every URL and email that comes through, and does that before the email actually hits our inbox. So all URLs get examined by the system first before they're allowed onto our mailbox at all. So that's part of the secure email part of Zencore Prime.
Yeah, and it is worrying, isn't it, that you see some of the emails that are coming through nowadays, and until you start looking at the sender's address, they're so spot on, aren't they?
They are, yeah. I mean, they're very realistic, and they're getting better as well, at sort of mimicking the kind of language that the supplier or whoever it is supposed to be sending you the email uses. Makes it very realistic. So it's hard to spot them.
Yeah, so I guess that's, as a small business, it's crucial that your systems are secure, and that's one way that you're protecting small business owners, isn't it?
Well, yeah, and you're not just protecting them from a phishing attack either. You're protecting them from all the consequences of a phishing attack, because the phishing attack itself is just a prelude to other things. It's the first way in that the hackers will use to get onto your systems. But then from that point onwards, they'll be preparing those systems for attack through ransomware and things like that as well. So they'll be hiding there in the background while you're working away, and it'll take place over months and months and months, where they gather information and they set everything up, and this goes on and that goes on, and eventually they'll hit the button and you'll succumb to the ransomware attack. So fishing their own. Sorry about this phone calls. Yeah. So the phishing attack itself is just a prelude to other things. And then once they've got the hooks in on the ransomware, then your business is going down the swanny fairly quickly.
Yeah.
So if you nip that in the bud first thing, you've got a good chance of surviving.
Yeah. And does the email part of the work, does that work? Does that work with Gmail and Office 365, or do they need to have their own? Do they need to move to a different email provider?
No, they can just continue to use Gmail and 365 and whatever else you use for email. So generally, it's one of those, or just like a POP or a IMAP mailbox.
Yeah. Cool. Okay. And I was on your website. As I do with everyone, I have a good scoot around, and one of the things I was interested in finding out more about was the Million People Project.
Yeah, the Million People Project came about in 2020 when I first started up in business, and it was because I was looking around for something to do, having been ill for a little while, looking for a project to work on, and really the Million People Project was a way that I could give back to the community that I grew up in and the communities that I grew up in the northeast of England. It seemed to me that it was the start of COVID. All of the other engineers in the area are down tools because of COVID, at a time when there was more reliance on tech support than there was ever before. People were being sent home to work from home, and children were being sent home from school to be homeschooled at a time when there was inadequate resources to be able to help them do that. So I was coming across families who were struggling on one laptop or two laptops per family of 5 or 6 people, and it was unsustainable, and I could see that. So I set about providing free laptops for those families by raiding the stores of other companies who had laptops sitting in storeroom cupboards, not doing anything. It would probably never do anything. And once I told them about it, at first they were hesitant, but when I told them about what the project was and how I was going to use the laptops, they were forthcoming with that kit, So I refurbished and repurposed and everything those laptops, and I just the response was so overwhelming that I just had rooms full of laptops stacked floor to ceiling, And I went through and with a mate of mine, we basically refurbished everything and put it out into the communities where it could be used. It was just an on-demand thing. We kept it very low key, but people found out about the thing because they were in need. And when people are in need, they tend to put the word out, and people help them sometimes.
Yeah, and I think COVID, there's been some good and some bad, obviously some really bad stuff from it. But I think from the good side, it's proven that home working works. For those businesses that was, didn't think productivity, well, you actually don't get none of this talking around the photocopier or the water cooler anymore. So productivity, I think people who work from home are more more productive because they're like, oh shit, I can't. They'll be thinking I'm skiving if I don't get on with my work. But it also had brought its challenges with like you say, with kids coming home from school. As you know, I have a large family of 8, 6 at home, and when you've only got 1 or 2 computers and you're supposed to try and homeschool all your children, it was challenging, and it was great to hear. It's great to hear that there's companies like yourself that were going out their way to try and help those who were in need.
Came up with the idea for the challenge. I thought I need a target to meet as well. So I thought actually we can do this on a larger scale, and we're kind of planning to do that now. Do this on a larger scale and raise 1 million people out of digital exclusion and poverty by the time I retire. Yeah. The standing joke is that I'm going to retire at 105 the way things are going at the moment.
Yeah, definitely, because you ain't gonna get a fucking state pension, are you? So you might
Definitely
as well.
not.
Yeah, you'll be working till God knows when.
Yeah, so we'll be setting up the Million People Project as a CIC hopefully by the end of the year, and or possibly in the early next year. But that's what I plan for that side of the business, and the rest of the business is basically the sort of foundations on which that'll be built. So
Yeah. And I think it's important for businesses to have a corporate social responsibility, regardless of the size you are. You know, for me, I try and help small organizations with their websites or their social media, to give them that, because they can't afford to outsource or cost it. But I think it's really important, isn't it, for businesses to have that, regardless of your size, the corporate social responsibility.
yeah, absolutely, it should be a running theme through everything that you do. Really, in my opinion, everyone should have some cause that they are close to, that or that a family member is close to, that they can support. There's and we know that there's no end of charity campaigns and what have you going on telethons on the telly and stuff like that. Do they still call them that? Telethons? They
Yeah,
used to.
yeah.
Don't
What
know.
is a telephone?
Anyway,
I think I've got one.
Yeah, there's so many charities now, and a lot of charity work going on in the country, and it's just testimony, isn't it? Really, that there's a need there, and everyone should be getting involved, and everyone should be mucking in to try and help everybody else out. And that's the way I see society being a successful society, rather than a capitalist money grabbing society where everybody's in it for themselves.
Yeah, I'm of the same sort of ethos that, you need to give back to the community for the community to thrive. And if you want a great community to live in, you need to be out there doing something. And it's not all about giving money, isn't it? It's sometimes
that's right.
the little things.
It's about what you do with that as well, So in my case, it was making sure people had access to technology that they wouldn't normally have. I mean, it's even the case that people need access to technology in order to do their benefit claims and stuff like that, where they may not be in a position to afford the kind of tech they need to be able to do that. It just seems like really unfair, at least unfair.
We're in a crazy society where we rely on tech, but tech is can be so out of reach of some people. But they're the ones that are in the need the most. In my spare time, I am a director of our local credit union, and you see that there's people out there that are struggling, and without a credit union, then they would struggle even more.
Yeah, sure.
It's a scary world sometimes, and sometimes I think we walk around with blinkers, and concentrate on our own little world where we don't look at the bigger picture.
Definitely, and it's easy to do. And sometimes when societies are under stress, like we were with COVID, there is a tendency sometimes for people to turn in on themselves, or societies and communities to turn in on themselves and become very insular and protect at the lowest level. So protect at the individual level or the family level, but neglect to protect the neighbours or protect the village or the town or the country or whatever. A lot of hatred's generated, which needs to be counteracted by people doing good things.
Yeah, definitely. So me and Warren, we've known each other now for over a month now through as I talk about on every episode, a wonderful networking organization called Circle Networks. Warren, we found out last week or the week before that Warren should be taken up doing audiobooks for children. He did a presentation called The Three Little Pigs, and everyone who's listened to it thinks that Warren should do a side hustle of audiobooks for children. But Circle Networks is amazing, isn't it, Warren?
It is. It's absolutely incredible what Jamie Stewart's done with Circle Networks. Even just over the past 12 months, and it started a bit before that, but over the last 12 months, it's really grown. It's now it can now truly claim to be an international network. With parts of the network out in different countries Sweden, South Africa, just to name a couple.
Yeah, it is amazing how, and I truly believe that the tagline of the organization, Friendship Fuels Business, is 100%. I do feel that we're all friends first before business connections.
Yeah, absolutely. That's where the magic happens, really, is in those relationships. It's about building relationships. It doesn't matter whether they are personal relationships or business relationships. Relationships in general grow when people get to know each other really well.
Yeah.
And that's an obvious, isn't it? So you can take that as a given. So if you're trying to build your business, it's a great idea to have a good set of business friends around you, and that's what Circle Network helps you to do.
Yeah. So anyone who's looking to grow their network should come along to Circle Networks. 2 weeks free trial, no credit card required, in brackets. But yeah, you should definitely come along and meet people like myself and Warren, and there's some other crazier people than me and Warren in the group, and it is, there's over 70 over 70 meetings a month. You can go to as many as little as possible. Like today, I will be helping run the military circle at 1 o'clock, and then I run my own on a Thursday once a fortnight. It's full on, and then there's plenty to get involved with and connect, like Warren says, worldwide as well.
Yeah, and I'm taking part in a speaker slot. All of the events have a speaker slot, either 1 or 2 speaker slots, where you can go along and talk about your business and present it to the rest of the group. And word gets around and people talk about it, like they do with the Three Little Pigs story.
Yeah.
And I'll be presenting the Three Little Pigs at the Touchdown Circle tonight at 5 o'clock. So if anybody wants to come along to that, feel free, get on.
Yeah.
Book a place.
It's probably one of the presentations that's stuck in my mind. There's certain presentations that stick, don't they? And that one, when you started off, I'm thinking, why is he telling the story of Three Little Pigs? So then it all comes out. So you do need to come along to Circle Networks if you want to hear Warren's Three Little Pigs story. So social media, as you know, that's my bag.
Yep.
How do you find it within your business, and what are the challenges that you?
Social media, I love parts of it and I dislike other parts of it. Obviously, there's swings and roundabouts with it, isn't there? And I found that Facebook was excellent for B2C, business to consumer work when I was doing just that. But I switched over to LinkedIn when it became business to business, and LinkedIn's phenomenal for marketing business to business. So social media's ability to get you known and get your face out there and get your business out there and to talk to other business owners and to talk to your potential clients is amazing, And when it comes to prospecting, it's excellent. When it comes to developing and keeping those relationships rolling, it's excellent as well,
Yeah, and I think with the introduction of AI as well, there's so I just think that AI and social media work so well together. I'm using Craig Dean's trialing Craig Dean's system and Fluxio with LinkedIn, where it has a lot of AI built into it to build those connections and funnel them through a process that I think's amazing.
Craig's doing some amazing work, yeah.
Yeah. So anyone who wants to know more about LinkedIn, Craig Dean is the man. Again, he is Mr. LinkedIn, isn't he? Almost.
He is really, yeah.
Yeah. So
and he's easy to find on there as well. He's quite prolific on LinkedIn. So
yeah. So you need to start following Craig Dean, because he's the master of LinkedIn. But yeah, no, it's definitely social media is definitely challenging, and I think one of the big things is understanding where your target audience is and who you're trying to target.
LinkedIn's so vast now, that you can't just put one hook in the water and expect to catch a fish. You need to know where your particular group of people that your audience, you need to know where they hang out on LinkedIn. go and hang out with them and talk to them.
Yeah. And that's, and it's what you just said there about, it's not just one, put the bait in and hook one fish. It does take time. And I always say to, I work predominantly with B2C clients, and I say to them, you need to give me 3 months, because from going from posting once in a blue moon to then posting regularly, you're fighting the algorithms and it takes time, but it will work. And all social media platforms are the same. You can't just go on to LinkedIn and expect to have results straight away. It's almost down to the no trust and isn't it? Sort of.
Yeah, that know, like, and trust, the old KLT is an amazing thing, and that's the sort of foundation that networks like Circle Networks is kind of built on. That getting to know people, getting to like people, and getting to trust people.
Yeah, definitely. So, for those who are interested in finding out more about Warren's business, for those watching the video version, I've just put it on the screen. It's infrazen.tech. Head over to there. You'll see Warren's website. He's also using lovely little video in the bottom right-hand corner. I use it myself, the Lead Chest app, again from another Circle member, George McGilvery. And yeah, it's another brilliant bit of technology, isn't it?
It is, absolutely, yeah. And there's loads more besides that that little widget in the bottom right-hand corner of the screen. It can do loads of stuff that's really excellent for you.
Yeah.
Promoting your website and helping people through it and keeping them on their customer journey.
Yeah, and I think again, that's the benefits of Circle, isn't it? You get to talk to people, you get to understand. We're all, you can all be in the same sort of sector, and it's not competing; it's complementing each other.
Yeah, absolutely. Collaboration over competition is probably a good way to go. It sounds counterintuitive, but it really is.
Yeah, because I concentrate on B2C, but I know that there's other people who are in Circle that do B2B, and that's to say that I could pass them a referral, going, well, that's not my ideal client. Here's speak to Michelle, who's one of our newest members out in South Africa. I know that she does B2B, so there's opportunities to collaborate and share referrals to each other, isn't there?
Yeah, absolutely, and that's what it's all about, getting referrals for each other. You're sort of working as a team. You build your own little team of people around you, and everybody helps each other out.
Yeah,
when it comes to referrals and what have you.
Yeah. So Warren, thank you very much for joining us this week. It's been a pleasure to have you on. For those who want to find out more, like I say, head over to infrazen.tech to find out more about Warren. And if you want to find out more about Circle Networks, head over to circlenetworks.co.uk and you get to meet nice people like me and Warren. So this is episode 8. I can't believe I've always wanted to do a podcast, and I started off, and I can't believe I'm now on episode 8 already. I've got some great guests coming up. I've got Helen Goad, who is joining me next week. And I've got Sophie and Tony. I think they'll be married by then, joining me. So yeah, I've got loads of people joining us. So keep tuned in for more people who can help you in your business. Warren, thanks again for joining us, and those listening, look forward to speaking to you next week.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks. Bye.